I'm Randy Wiens. I've been teaching in the district for 34 years. I've been very active in VTA and also in CTA. I am currently at Rancho Buena Vista High School. I've been at Vista High. I was also at Washington Junior High when it was a junior high, for those that can remember that long ago. I've served on a number of committees within the district, within VTA itself, budget committees, bargaining, political action committees, statewide and all the way down. And the purpose of this broadcast to you is to educate you as to what's going on in the current budget crisis and budget process within our district, since I am on the BAC. The purpose of the Budget Advisory Committee is to take the time to look in depth into the budget, time that the school board doesn't have. Each individual board member has public meetings and so on. They can't go into depth. If they have a workshop, it's in public, a lot of people there, a lot of input. So this is a chance for a smaller group of people to go into greater detail, people from different walks of life, but to review and make recommendations to the board that the board can accept, not accept, but it's a chance for them to get a little bit a deeper look into the budget itself through other people's eyes. Thank you. It's a good question. Thank you. What we used to call the Budget Committee has been around for a number of years. More than a decade or so ago, between 10 and 20 years ago, there was a spirit of teachers having input and being part of the process, part of the decision-making process within the district, not only at district level, but site level. And we used to be called the Budget Committee. In recent years, our name's been changed to the Budget Advisory Committee. Unfortunately, I've been on a number of those, and normally they were called when there were crises. Only when there's a big problem, only when cuts needed to be made, we'd be called to analyze the budget. We, after a number of times doing that, began to explain that we needed an ongoing budget committee. And so we have in contract language that exists. If there is a committee, we have members sitting on there. But now the committees themselves have become an ongoing. We haven't looked at anything other than a crisis time, but hopefully in the future it'll be an ongoing when new monies come in. The committee is made up of VTA members. We have 3 by contract because we're there. Classified also has 3 members on the committee. There are also representatives from PTA, DLAC, some other organizations, just parent groups represented. Each of the board members also has a representative on there, be it a business community person or another parent or another other people that are connected to the school district that the board members have present. There's also business community members that are there. We also have district administration there. We have the actual financial officer, her assistants. So it's made up of about 18 to 20 people, all signed off to be there. We're now, this year, we're on for 2 to 3 year stints, and then you can get off, but we're all appointed into those positions. Thank you. We have Donna Caperton and Cassie Wells in her office of finance are the keepers of the dollars and the accounts and so on. We have a J90 series, it's called, that has all the accounts, all the expenditures in, out, throughout every budget item throughout the district. They're experts in using it. We fortunately have J.B. Barton, Ron Fier, myself. There's a handful of other people that have extensive CTA training in those budget areas and negotiations and bargaining. We also have access to CTA experts, which we've been in contact with through this entire process to check numbers, have them validate what is there. The district also goes through a periodic audit that comes in and makes sure that everything balances and everything is legal. But our problem with that is they don't really judge where the monies are being spent, just that they're being spent and not overspent and it's legal. So we're there to ask those questions, to look into it with depth. No one else on the committee has that kind of background knowledge that we have. Other members on the committee get annoyed at us sometimes because we will ask those detailed questions. Many times they have no idea what we're talking about. But we'll talk about that. There's general fund dollars. There's categoricals and general fund dollars that come in that we know where they are and what can and cannot be used. There are different forms of reserves. General reserve, there's also categorical reserves. Some that we've tapped into that other committee members didn't even know existed. We have, we're looking into the Form 20 fund currently, which deals with our liabilities in terms of insurance and retirements, pension plans and so on, that we have reserves there that you can use on a need-to-use basis, but we have a little extra there that we feel we can tap into. We're trying to get the Budget Committee to tap into that. We've had other reserves in adult education and special education that we've been able to tap into last year and again into this year. This year there was one that was over $9 million that only a week before our last meeting surfaced, of which we're now using $3 million for this year, next year, and the year after. So these are only our expertise and our training from CTA would allow us to have access to that kind of knowledge and it's easy, there's so many thousands of places dollars are placed, it would be very easy to pad those places or pad where they're not, where the non-expert, non-lay person is not going to even know exist. And so fortunately we have, 3 people. I wish we were all at the high school, middle school, and elementary levels. That would be a perfect world, but we don't have that scenario. We are together on the same campus. For every Budget Committee meeting we've had, there's been 14, 15 of those. The 3 of us, are able to have at least one meeting between the 3 of us, and quite often we meet with Jan and Barbara. So it's been a pretty good team so far. Thank you. Actually an excellent question. The Budget Committee made recommendations, but when we started looking at all these different items, we started with the premise that we don't like any of the cuts. And from top to bottom, there's not any of those budget items that the district currently is considering with the administrative recommendation or our own that any of us support. Once we accepted that, all the cuts are going to be somewhat negative and hard-hitting somewhere. What our vote was to prioritize those, to look at all the things, have them all listed, and from top to bottom there are some that we unanimously believe that needed to be higher on the list for the board to consider, and the ones that we didn't feel should be high on the list but still on the list should be at the bottom of the list, and so we voted that way. There were a number of times, I've talked to 2 different board members that were under the impression, and are still under the impression, that the Budget Committee's recommendations were either for or against them. And I have yet to be able to convince them. I've explained it to Donna Caperton at numerous Budget Committee meetings. She knows the problem, and she has been able to explain to the board that our vote was never for or against, because we started off with the premise we're against all of them. It's a question of the whole list, where do they fall in terms of priority? Which ones should be the most considered, and how far do you have to go down to get to the other ones? Currently, the board, Dr. Lilly made a statement that they are going to look, or they have looked, at all of the ones that the Budget Committee is in favor of. So he's not understanding what our purpose was in the votes that were taken and what those numbers mean. But having said that, they've looked at all the numbers that were positive in terms of high on our recommendation. They have not looked at any of the items below that are still on our recommendation, but were not a high priority, but still needed to be considered if we didn't have enough money in making the cuts.